Did you copy that from my
Don't remember where I saw that.
on my timeline?
Oh my goodness.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, you gumpers.
Hey, hola, bon dia, Carl and Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show live stream and podcast. I've got a really interesting screen this morning on this Feel Good Friday. See myself on one part of it. I've tiled the screen. For the last 5 years, I've been trying to figure out how to tile the screen on Windows, and now I've done it by accident, and this is not a view I'm used to. Sorry for the ragged start this morning, but it's an easygoing Feel Good Friday. What's this that Mrs. M's got on the screen? 8x4 second, bloody blah. Okay, let's see. We'll go with what we've got, shall we? And what we've got this morning, what a delight it was to receive this. Check this out.
It's that Feel Good Friday. Feel Good Friday. Feel Good Friday. The GM.
I think we need to rewind and come again with that. Check it out. Thank you so much, Owen. Right, come on, let it go. Hold on, selector. Just hold that. Rewind. Now, I want you to freak out this morning, okay? You're probably on your own listening to the show. You might be in bed. You might be in your office. Chances are, at this time of the morning, you might be just having a cup of coffee and probably on your own. How about we start as we mean to go on this Frankie-flavoured Feel Good Friday with a bit of a freak out at home. No one's watching. Dance like no one's watching at home to this, right? So I'm going to drop it one more time with these Denver rhythms, and let's see. Do whichever dad dancing, gay dad dancing, whatever style of dancing you do in your chair. Let's go for it, shall we? Okay, are you ready? Let's do it.
It's that Feel Good Friday. Feel Good Friday. Feel Good Friday.
Come on, no one's watching.
The
GMP. Owen, that's superb. Thank you so much for that. Is everything okay out there? In here, for that matter. Note to self as well. Don't drink citrus just before, well, a few minutes before going live. Owen, thank you so much. Renaissance man. Not only is he knocking out rhythms like that and entertaining, crowd pleasing, he's also making pistachio ice cream. He sent me a picture of the pistachio ice cream he made yesterday. And look at that. That is a thing of beauty right there. I bet that was delicious as well. Looks good on the plate. I'm sure it was delicious in the mouth, as all the best things are. Incredible. How are you this morning? Let's see how those wise men of the Gumpocalypse are doing. I'm watching from Mod Leg Day in the gym. Who is that? Great tunes to lunge to. Is that you, Henry? So Mod Leg Day, you see, this is what's throwing me a bit with my 50 plus shapeshift. It's all this jargon. I only found out what a rep was this week. Well, I guessed it was a repetition. It was confirmed for me. And it's Mod Leg Day. What does that mean? We are the mods. We are the mods. We are the mods. Is it something to do with mods and rockers? I wonder. I doubt it. I don't imagine for one moment that although, I mean, it is Devon, so there might be a few old mods and rockers there in Teignmouth. But modification leg day? I don't know. Let me know what that means, if that is indeed you, Henry. Mrs. M will be joining me soon as well. I think she's gone to sort out a fracas among the kids. That'll be sorted out soon, I'm sure. They're enjoying their Friday already. And Mod, what's this? Not Mod, meant my. Oh, my leg. It's getting even more confusing now, isn't it? Good morning to you anyway, Sonny. How are you? And bon dia todos from Antonio F this morning as well. Let's rewind up to the top of the chat. And morning to you as well, Pam, and see what those wise men of the Gunpocalypse were saying. Yeah, very, very excited this morning. Should we play that one more time, shall we? And just in case you're a bit reluctant, I'm not dancing just because he's dancing. I don't have to dance as well. It's Friday morning. I just want a cup of coffee and relax. Well, I promise you, if you do dance and move like no one's watching, and even if they are, Sonny's going to do it in the gym now in front of everybody, and people are not going to laugh and point and think, oh, what a plonker. They're going to think, I wish I had some of what she's having this morning. So here we go. One more time.
It's that Feel Good Friday.
Yay!
Feel Good Friday.
GMP.
Feel Good Friday. The
It's a 3 shredded weekday. Yeah, there you go. Thank you so much, Owen, for that. You can't imagine how. I think you probably can, seeing the state of me this morning. But thank you. That made my day receiving that this morning. Bon dia, Alegria Gumpers. At what, 7:53 this morning with a Felicia Sexta-feira todos. Putting the sex into Sexta-feira today with a deep thought now from Ralph Waldo Emerson. We like an Emerson quote here, don't we? Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. That's what we do, isn't it? Most weekday mornings. Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Trail mix, Hansel and Gretel. No, don't do it like Hansel and Gretel did. That didn't really work out terribly well, did it? Leave a trail of what, I wonder, with this deep thought? A trail of inspirational quotes. I suppose that's what Emerson did, really, was leave a trail of inspiration. And you're thinking, okay, if I follow this trail, as Emerson, excuse me, it's the citrus talking. If I follow that trail, will I end up as erudite and smart as Emerson is? Only one way to find out. Emerson, of course, an American essayist, a lecturer, a philosopher, an abolitionist, and a poet. Great stuff, T-Duck, to kick off with, and a gangster beer to boot as well. We talked about the armed forces. I think we're deep diving into the Portuguese army today. The Exército Português is the land component of the armed forces of Portugal, and it is also its largest branch. Charged with, I'm immediately thinking of a tree, a big oak tree. And we've got one of the oldest in the world here. I mean, an oldest olive tree or oak tree, I think, but maybe one of each here in Portugal. And they are charged, of course, with the defense of Portugal, with its origin. Going back to the 12th century, it can be considered one of the oldest active armies in the world. Portugal has so many of these oldest things, doesn't it? And in a good way, I have to say. And sometimes in a bad way. One of the oldest bureaucracies in the world. The Portuguese army is commanded by the chief of staff of the army. These buttons are a bit slow this morning. That's not a good sign. Only at 8:39 this morning. I'll tell you what is a good sign, though. Mrs. M is joining me. Shall we play her the tune? Shall we see what she makes of it? Does anybody wants to dance in their chair? Not again, Carl. Yes, again, Carl. Come on. I'm going to drop it one more time. Rewind selector. What's that? Okay, Mrs. M, I've got. Oh, no, I can't get rid of that because I've got to play the button here. Ready, Mrs. M? We're going to bring you onto the screen to this.
It's that Feel Good Friday. Feel Good
With the GMP.
Feel Good Friday.
Burp.
The GMP.
Burp, burp, burp. Or whatever the young people say. What do you think of that, Mrs. M? Good morning to you.
Morning.
Oh, wrong jingle. No, wrong jingle again.
Wrong jingle.
What's happened? Oh, you got to do that. That's why the jingles weren't playing earlier on.
I'll just clap myself, shall I?
Clap yourself. Yes,
Yeah.
why don't you? Well, you hurt yourself this morning, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
The kitchen
I'm
is
a
truly
little-
the most dangerous part of the house.
Yeah, I'm a little bit in shock, to tell you the truth. I was going to do a live stream this morning at 7,
Yeah.
and about 1:45, I was just walking through.
I need you
a
to
cup of
talk
tea.
into your microphone. It's
Well,
going to really help.
It's
You're
it's
talking
been
to the front
moved.
bit there like that.
It's been
Check this
moved.
out. How much better is that, everybody?
Hello.
You hear that?
But
Hear that?
it needs to be higher.
Oh, Diva moment. Talking to the front bit there and move it around until it is. There you go. How about
Yeah,
that?
thank you.
There she is. Much better.
Well, I would have moved it, but last time I moved it, you were like, "Stop fiddling with the mic."
Yeah, well,
And
there
so
is that as well.
I just assumed
No,
that you'd like put it in the optimal.
You can
position.
move it, but you mustn't fiddle with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't play with it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was walking through the kitchen with a cup of tea,
As you do.
and I tripped over one of my trouser legs.
It's like being back in the 70s, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because you had flares on. and you
slightly
tripped
flared
over-
trousers.
Do you know maybe there were more trouser-related accidents in
Sure
the
there were.
70s?
And it was quite a precious mug. It was the first thing I ever bought you, wasn't it? And I hurtled towards the floor with this mug in my hand, and I tried to save the mug. And the two cats that I was about to squash, the two kittens, like legged it, and they ran so fast away from me that they smacked into the patio doors.
Their instincts, nothing wrong with their instincts,
yes,
right?
they're really, really smart. And then I smacked both my knees straight down on the floor, and they're
Slam dunk.
really swollen already. So
I will give them a nice massage later on.
thank
Might
you.
even
Well, I
do that
just
now if I can reach.
I just went upstairs to see the kids and to ask them kindly to stop fighting, and yeah, and it was quite difficult to maneuver up.
Seriously,
And it was
are you
harder to
seizing
walk.
up a bit?
Yeah, and it was harder to walk down.
Oh dear.
But I'll be all right.
Famous
But if
last
I
words.
faint,
If you
I'm in
faint during the
shock.
show, it's because the shock is kicking in.
I've taken lots of arnica, which should help.
Good. All right. Those can work quite well as contraceptives as well. If you put an arnica pill between your knees and keep it there, it's a very good form of contraception.
Oh, I did not know that.
And maybe you need.
And it's not one you've used. Is
I'm
it?
certainly not one I've used. No. I open a bag of frozen peas and make that. I'm sharing this dad joke now. I will do it again at the end.
That's what
but
I
you
need.
probably
I actually
you do
need these
frozen
on
peas,
my
don't you?
knees.
Yeah, I open a
Frozen
bag of
peas
frozen
for my
peas.
knees. That could be part of the song that Minnie writes for Thunder
For Tea
Duck.
Duck, yes,
Yeah.
indeed. And a few fell out. Are they escapees? You don't want that, do you? Because whilst you're not feeling very well and you've got swollen stuff, you don't want to be chasing peas across the living room as they fall out of the. Yes, there are two types of people who open frozen bags of food, and you're looking at both of them on the screen here. I like to take a pair of scissors and make a small opening in a frozen bag of peas and gently squeeze them out when I need them. Mrs. M, on the other hand, in her Sagittarian way, gets the bag, rips it open, and it's a massive wrinkly tear on the plastic. Looks like a very old vagina. She's gonna spit. She's gonna spit the drink. Here we go. Come on, live on air. That image. Hold the image. Right. Okay. And the problem with that, of course, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Like a wrinkly old
No,
vagina.
don't say it again. These things are best left.
You're so naughty. It's
No,
normally me that does stuff like that.
It is.
I've actually blushed then.
But sometimes that is what the edge of a bag of peas looks like. You know, when it's been hastily torn open. And
Well,
what
like
I
a purple
really,
lettuce.
yeah, and what I really, yes.
A purple,
All right,
a
let's move.
purple curly lettuce.
No, it's best left when people say, "Did he really say that?" You don't keep, it's not like jazz. You don't keep doing it again as if you meant to. You move on, and people are like, "Did he really say that?" And then when I'm taking the peas from the not the oven, if I'm taking the peas from the freezer, the peas get left in the freezer doorway all over the floor, and that's me shouting in the kitchen to myself, "Bloody hell! Have you been opening your peas again in here?" Yes. Does anyone else live in a household of that kind when there are two different pea bag openers? Let's see what the comments. She peed all over the floor.
Do you know what? I actually didn't pee. Last time I fell over, I tripped over.
Right.
I went down with such a smash that I actually wet myself a little bit. And
Oh,
I was
it's
actually,
worse, doesn't
I
it?
know. And I was actually thinking, wow, I did really well today. I didn't have any leakage.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, I feel very good about that.
Very good. Oh my word! And we got a lot to thank our knees for, aren't they? Incredible
Yes.
things. They've brought us this far.
You've had me on my knees a few times.
What?
Haven't you? You've brought me down on my knees.
Yeah, and I've been down on one knee, kind of metaphorically.
Only when you were absolutely told to.
Oh, don't be like that. And part of the inspiration, there are three reasons why I have taken my shape into my hand, so to speak, 50 plus shapeshift. I'll tell you the three things I realized the other day, which have inspired me to go to the gym and so on and change my habits. The first one was hearing my knees as I was going up and down the stairs, the creaking and the whatever's in there, old bits of bone and cartilage and stuff. I could actually hear it. And when no one else was shouting in the house, or there was no loud noises as they usually are here, in the silence of going up the stairs, probably late at night on my own after staying up at the computer and getting a bit of peace, I hear my knees thinking, I need to do something about that. That's actually got better. I thought it meant the end of activity, but actually by going a bit more active and using all these strange contraptions in the gym, I think the grains in my knees have got better.
That's
actually.
remarkable.
So
That's
that-
happening just after 2
Well,
visits to the gym.
It's a miracle, isn't it?
It's a miracle.
They should have a skip
Do you know what?
outside
I
for
think I
people
should
to
go,
throw their crutches
because
in.
I've had crunchy knees since I was about 21 when I
Well, you
had.
can hear your knees. You've heard.
Yeah,
them
I've
all up?
always. Have you never heard my knees?
I've never heard your
Oh
knees.
my goodness.
No, okay.
It's I get embarrassed. I talk as I'm going up the stairs,
Right.
so people can't hear my knees crunching. From where I had a bike accident.
I'm not laughing at your bike accident. I'm laughing at Banana Slug James saying, I cannot overstate how much my life has changed in this moment of P talk. We weren't, as you see, it is Ralph Waldo Emerson. We took no, that's the Scott Peck, is it? The Road Less Traveled. But we've got Emerson's quote here. Go where no, do not go where the path may lead. We certainly don't do that. And I didn't know we were going down the P path. The other thing that got me going with the fitness thing was resenting bending over.
Oh, I thought it was when I said "core" when I looked at you this morning.
That is that's very, very encouraging. So please keep doing that first thing in the morning as you glance upon my naked body. It's very good to get any encouragement. And if anybody wants
Well, of course, yeah,
a selfie pic so they can send me WhatsApp messages with words of encouragement. 913-590-303.
I think you need to reword that, because you might get a load of pics of people.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay, that's fine. 913-590-303.
I don't want a load of dick pics coming through. Oh my
Okay,
god!
no, nor do I.
Most of your This is audience
this
are
morning.
male.
Can I come back to what I was talking about? My inspiration. So noisy knees and resenting bending over. So we've got a cupboard with our pans in, and I noticed recently that I'm thinking, oh no, I've got to get a pan.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh.
That is pathetic, isn't it? And instead of like, okay, I need to do something about this, I was just getting into the habit of thinking, oh no, I've got to bend over again because it's getting more difficult.
Seriously?
Yeah. And just again in this last few weeks, in this last week, just getting more flexible. I actually relish the thought of bending over now. And don't be smutty, anybody. We've done enough of that this morning. But I'm not, I've changed that in my mind. It's not, oh my God, I've got to bend over and get a pan at the cup. It's like, bring it on. I'm either down on my crunchy knees or bending over and doing a stretch. And I'm thinking that is more points towards prizes of fitness right there. And do you know what the third one was? I don't think I can do a lot about this one.
Go on.
You know that sailing trip I went on with Nunu and his team?
Yeah.
They took photos of me enjoying myself in the water. Not what you think. And I was sent the photos of the day and swimming in off the beach at Kashkash where the president rescued those ladies. And I was looking through these photos and I thought, why have they sent me a photo of this bald guy getting out of the water? And it's most unfortunate. It's very unflattering, isn't it, when you've been swimming and it messes with your comb over. And it was me. I was the bald guy in the photo with just the water is so unforgiving, isn't it? As it pats down your hair and sends your comb over in directions that you would rather not have it happen. I don't know what to do about it. I might have to shave it all off. I might have to wear it. Can you get us like a Speedo toupee?
Do you know what? I've got a client who's doing micro pigmentation. Like,
how will that help me? I can have some hair tattooed on.
Yeah, you can have
a hairstyle tattooed on.
You could have all of your pores.
Or why don't I have this quote tattooed on my head? So instead of people thinking, "Oh my God, he's so bald," they might think, "He's so inspirational." No, do not go where the path may lead. I mean, I will get my.
You do have a big head, so you could fit
get
that
several
whole
inspirational quotes. I could get all of the collected works of Emerson on my head.
No, what I'm saying
and travel the country.
Do you know what? First of all, I love you, even if you go bald.
So every man longs to hear those words.
Yeah, it really it's not an issue.
If I do.
Yeah, if you go bald.
Yes. And some women find that very attractive, of course, don't they? Because it shows. I mean, the way I see it is like I have got so much testosterone coursing through my body. The hair's falling out. It can't cope with being on the top of my head. It's almost evaporates.
Well, it was like that guy I saw on the beach. I don't know if I told you.
You
The big-
did
yeah,
several times.
I mean, he left quite an impression. I'm still thinking about him actually.
Was it his chest hair that left an impression on you, on your
Yes.
face?
I mean,
almost?
if I can't remember his face. He was kind of
Isn't that
slightly,
amazing?
slightly bald, but his chest hair was so voluminous.
Magnificent.
Like if you were to have an embrace with him, not that
Sean
I've
Connery,
visualized it,
yes.
but if you were to like go close to him, it would push you,
couldn't
away.
you couldn't get close.
Almost
to him.
like a big-breasted woman. Not that I've got close to big-breasted women either, but
Right. I have.
yeah.
I'm
So
delighted to say.
so you know what it'd be like to have that man's big, like
That would be a very difficult relationship. Him and his big-breasted wife. They would barely be able to embrace each other. They loved each other so much, but just
she'd
had to.
she'd have to get a comb out and like comb.
They'd
his-
have to admire each other from a distance.
Yeah,
wouldn't
I
they?
mean his chest hair was like
Magnificent. So
well, it was like a wolf, like the great big sort of shaggy.
So if you want to
V.
come to San Martino de Porto to see the
I don't know if he actually
the
lives here.
inspirationally tattooed man's head or the hairy chested guy, these are things that the mayor should be taking seriously about attracting people to San Martino de Porto. shouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
I had a pistachio pavlova. I'm sure there's a cream for that. That's a good thing. I had a
Oh, from Atelier de Dos, we could go there.
Oh my goodness, I didn't read to that bit, Pamela.
Yeah, that's
morning
our
to you,
local
Pam.
patisserie.
One of the best in
Well.
the world, isn't it? I had certainly one of the best in Portugal. I had a pistachio pavlova from Atelier de Dos yesterday. It was too delicious. Did you take a picture, or were you just thinking that I'm gonna?
Oh, we can't. It's off limits.
What do you mean? I can have a treat day
okay.
next year. Morning, Carl, says Coach Turner. I am not sure. You so do. You are a gentleman, and I mean that in the loosest of ways. This morning, let's go back because we were talking about the army. Who would be proud of my progress, my PT progress? So let's start that again. The Exército Português is the land component of the armed forces of Portugal, and is also its largest branch, charged with the defence of Portugal. And with its origins going back to the 12th century, it can be considered one of the oldest active armies in the world, joining the oldest university in Europe, if not the world, in Coimbra. We have a lot of ancient things here in Portugal to be proud of. The Portuguese army is commanded by the Chief of Staff of the army, and presently the Portuguese army is an entirely professional force made of career personnel, officers and NCOs, and volunteer personnel, officers, NCOs, and enlisted ranks. Conscription, as we discovered yesterday, ended in 2004, and it was gradually reduced from the middle of the 1990s until finally abolished and formally in 2004. As of 2014, the Portuguese army employed 5,667 career personnel and nearly 10,500 volunteers there. So that's interesting, isn't it? And I wonder if it hadn't been abolished, if citizenship would have been quite as attractive to people. Here's your Portuguese birth certificate, and here's your rifle.
Yes.
See you in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Top drawer dad jokes again. We'll save those.
Well, I wouldn't have wanted to bring our children here.
What to
Yeah.
Well,
to,
I think
give them national service.
in a modern national service environment, I imagine there are lots of other things to do in terms of being a public servant and serving society for 3 years.
I have no problems with that. I just I don't really want our kids to go off to war necessarily.
I don't think national service necessarily means that, but
No.
okay. But yes, but of course it could do. However, if there is a God forbid a war situation of that kind,
Yeah, you better
you
not
don't
get too
get any
fit.
choice, do you?
You shouldn't get
No,
too
shouldn't
fit
get-
because
that's always-
they might
that has
say,
always
"Oh,
been
you're
my
looking
excuse.
really fit."
Bring him in.
Go on.
We've been looking for men of your caliber. Bon dia, meus amigos.
Just as you get out of the age limit. I mean, what's the upper age limit?
I imagine I am beyond the age limit of
Yeah, but
conscription.
don't get too fit.
Don't get too fit. I can't have those thoughts in my head. Como está from Coach Turner? Well, that's another week ticked off the list. We should celebrate the little wins. Always do. That's my excuse anyway. Thanks, Coach T. And your God Squad tip of the day today is building a little high-intensity training into your routine can be really helpful in resetting your metabolism. Research shows that metabolism stays high for several hours afterwards. And since going to the gym twice now, I understand now this staring into the middle distance thing, and just sitting there or standing and having a moment. I didn't understand that before. This whole gym environment thing is new to me, and I get it. When you're resting between reps, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying here.
Oh
Mrs.
my
M.
God.
What?
Yes, of course I do.
When I'm resting between reps,
Yeah.
I do go into that. I'm feeling the chemicals coursing around my body.
Yeah, there's also another reason why most people are looking into the middle distance. It's because you can't like look at other people because they're all like wearing next to nothing, covered in
Yeah.
sweat. There's hormones all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, it gyms can get a bit posy, can't they? And a little
This
bit.
is what you can see in the gym.
It's like going to a nightclub, isn't it?
or like looking at a Queen album cover.
You want to
which
be very careful at what you end up looking at.
we will be talking to Frank about this when he arrives. Probably not an unanchored bicycle.
I mean, it's great. It's great if you're single, like going to the gym, isn't it?
Is
You
it,
know,
Mrs.
'cause you
M?
get-
I wouldn't know about that.
Well, I went actually when I was in a relationship, and also when I was single after.
Yeah. Right, a bit like supermarket shopping.
Oh yeah,
Late night.
yeah, late
supermarket
night
shopping.
supermarket.
I do remember
yes.
doing that as a single person.
And checking out what people were putting on their
Yeah, and the
checkouts.
different codes. You know, if you've got a
Yeah.
cucumber and 2 tomatoes in your shopping trolley, it's a signal. It's a
Yeah, and
signal.
if like she puts a
Who
pile
knew?
of nappies on, you're like, oh no, you go to another aisle.
Aisle 8, quick detour. And then you can flirt. You can flirt with people. Can't you? You just go back a little bit and hey. Do you know? I told you, didn't I? I got flirted with in IKEA.
Did you? I can't
I
remember.
did tell you. I did it. You know these shelves that we can see in front of us.
Yeah.
I was deliberating over some shelving, and a very young, attractive woman said something in. I think it could have been. It wasn't. I don't think it was Portuguese. Well, it must have been, mustn't it? But it sounded like Eastern European, and it really surprised me because I think she was, being quite flirtatious with me, and quite delighted by the fact that we were buying the same shelves. I liked it. I liked it anyway.
Do you know what? I think it must
we've got the same taste.
I think it must be so good living in your brain. I just I love how you
world
recode everything.
Right, okay.
She might have just been thinking you look like
Actually, yeah.
somebody who worked there.
A dad. My dad's got those shelves, she said to me. My dad's got the same taste as you and laughing and giggling.
Yeah, and you're laughing with her, thinking she's like giving you the eye.
Hello. No, and I went, sorry, love.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
We've done that bit. We've done that bit. Excellent. Okay. Frank is joining us. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, Mrs. M. We've got Frank joining us soon. With the big picture view. And he's disgusted.
Are we talking about big bottom girls?
Fat Bottom Girls is the name of the track.
Yeah.
Queen.
I feel like I can actually talk about this with some credibility.
I think he is disgusted.
Is he?
And he's I think he's got it as like, Queen going woke. Freddie would never have done this, and the story apparently is that they're dropping Fat Bottom Girls from their greatest hits so that it doesn't cause offense. And there you go. A little bit of a Freddie reference there. May your Mercury be more Freddie and less.
Put that on my
retrograde.
timeline.
Oh, of course I will. I just wanted to surprise you with
Yeah,
it this morning.
that's
Have you
lovely.
seen our weather report?
Nope.
As well. Let me just take that. If I take that comment off the screen, you'll see what's going on here. It's all going a little bit slow. I'm not like this, Mrs. M, because you've been on the computer early this morning, haven't you? And it's slowed everything down.
Not really.
But there you go. Weather report for today. Thank you very much, Margarita. Looking fabulous. And what an excellent fan you have there. Okay. And you're back to the comments. It's 9 o'clock. Has he got the, maybe he hasn't got the link.
Did you send it?
I'm just going to make sure I have no. He's probably just making sure he's looking very handsome.
Yeah,
isn't he?
I
If
imagine.
we Frank.
Oh, there he is.
There he is. Talk of the devil. Okay. And we'll give him a chance to just get adjusted and get all his Queen's greatest hits CDs out in front of him.
And
So
go like
he's-
this with his
he's ready.
moustache.
Yep. Wax the moustache.
Final bit of preening.
Final waxing. 2 minutes, Mr. Frank. 2 minutes, please. Your final call. So stop twizzling and waxing or whatever it is you're doing there. Okay, so let's go back to and Frank will appreciate this, and he's been very encouraging with my new gym routine. Building a little high-intensity training into your routine can be really helpful in resetting your metabolism. Research shows that metabolism stays high for several hours afterwards. Just a few 20-second bursts of maximum effort, it sounds like my love life, is sufficient to make a change. And if done once or twice a week, well, hey, we'll make a significant difference. However, as always, start gradually and build up. You know me so well, Coach Turner. Would you say that's my love style? There,
No,
right there,
I
Mrs.
wouldn't.
A few 20-second
No,
bursts.
I would say it's much better than that.
All right, he's got some new walk-on music. We know this now, don't we? Let's play the music and let's bring him onto the screen.
It's not Feel Good Friday. Feel Good Friday.
How's it going, kids?
Good Friday.
The GMP. Frank, how are you?
So it's all gone down to reggae, eh?
It's a Dembo rhythm right there, I think.
Yeah.
I do love that style.
Very
You
nice.
do like
very
a
nice.
good Carl always does that rhythm.
And
when
you
we're
can be no
working.
stranger to that in the Algarve. I'm sure a lot of cars could drive up and down the strip with such rhythms coming out of the window. If it's not that, it's Pimba.
Yeah, if it's not coming from the car, it's coming from the motorcycle's muffler or something.
Oh, what's that about? The smell of two-stroke and the...
Yeah, those ones. Yeah, exactly those ones.
Frank, I love
Exactly.
your
Face furniture.
yes, it's lovely.
Face furniture. Huh?
You've-
Thank you
you've
very
given it
much.
Styling.
Has he got a pint there? Full-on pint in a tankard, Frank?
Of
Is that what
course.
you're-
It's Friday morning. I thought that we were going to crack open a cold one together.
I am not doing that right now. I am not doing that right now. We've got lots to talk about, haven't we?
Of course we do.
It's the big picture. We're in our many production meetings preceding.
Production meetings.
Oh yes, I know you.
You mean
Oh,
like
is that what you're calling them now?
What's that?
Thanks,
Threads.
both of you. So I thought I might get away with that.
Yeah.
Right. In our WhatsApp messages, what we're
Yeah.
doing this Friday, Frank. Oh, let's talk about Oppenheimer. Is it Oppenheimer?
Yes.
Oppenheimer. And Beggars.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking, well, that's going to cheer everybody right up, Frank. But you're
Exactly.
like if I was to describe you as a wine, it would be you've got top notes of conviviality, fun and warmth. That's the immediate sense of you as a wine, and then a long, strong, and robust finish of curmudgeonliness. And it's such
Very
such a
nice.
delightful combination, isn't it? And in that through that lens or out of that wine glass comes this. I'm sure you're able to talk about the new nuclear bomb movie with a sense of aplomb and fun and searing insight into the human condition.
Do you know what? If you were a wine and I was describing you,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wouldn't give you the curmudgeonliness.
But
I
you
would,
talking about Frank? I mean,
Frank.
yeah. Okay.
I would say actually, there's a hidden spirit in there because like
A long
you're,
finish.
Yeah, you've got a long
Oh.
finish. You've got like an additional cocktail in there
Oh,
because
additional
you're
cocktail. All right,
intense.
I'll take that as a compliment, Mrs.
and you
Munson.
and you like to keep going. So
Mhm.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Very,
Absolutely,
very.
absolutely. So I've been told. So
Yes.
in this Oppenheimer bit, I was, to be very honest, I'd completely forgotten about it. I had seen a documentary about this like a few years ago, but now since the movie's come out, watched the documentaries again, then I went and watched the movie. It is something that you don't just watch once. I think you have to see it 2 or 3 times in order to appreciate. First of all, the
Oh,
kind of
right.
movie making,
Yeah.
because these kinds of movies don't come out very often these days, because our cinemas are bombarded with the Marvel and all that nonsense,
Barbie.
which has nothing to do with movies. It's just completely ridiculous. So this was it was long, but it's so poignant and it's so for the times. I think Christopher Nolan, the director, for a very good reason, made this movie and released it at this time, in order to wake us up, because we as citizens are sleeping, and the kind of stuff that is going on under our noses is not good. Everything from the pandemic to this. I think there should be a movie on the pandemic as well.
There are, aren't there? There are some underground
yeah.
docs, but
Yes,
nothing of that scale.
there should be, and especially the ones with the truth. You don't want to hear the garbage of whatever, and then people should start apologizing to the folks who did not get vaccinated, because I think that it's about time in our society we encourage free will, and we haven't been doing this. Going back to Oppenheimer, I kind of felt that the reason why it was so important to have a movie like this at this time is because we are at the precipice of some kind of nonsense, some idiot pushing a button somewhere and something going on. Even though when you watch the movie and you watch a lot of many of the documentaries, there was a lot of thought put into it. But then it was also about competition. Oh, are they building one? If before they do, we should have one. And then to experiment, you know how the cities were picked to bomb. One of the generals on the list, one of the cities was Kyoto. And one of the generals said, no way Kyoto, because I really like that town. And it's really got history. So can we pick another town? And then they went and picked these. So there was no regard for humanity, and how these cities were picked, and how this Oppenheimer himself, he regretted it. And once the genie is out of the bag, you can't put it back. And he so wanted to put it back. Unfortunately, he could not, because after that, what he went against was the hydrogen bomb. And that's when they threw the might on him. It's so unfortunate. It's a movie worth watching. It's a movie first worth reading about the history of this, and then going and watching the movie. It really, really tells you. And it really relates to what is happening right now, because what's going on in Ukraine and the stuff that we're not being told. This is just an exercise in poking the bear, and people using their reserves, be it atomic bombs or missiles or whatever, on human beings just to get rid of inventory. We're in horrible times.
Well, this is, I was making light of the situation and characterizing you as a wine. And what I think it's true to say, you are the person who is a lot of fun in one sense. And from the conversations we've had, Frank, right there on the money, deep as a human being can go as well at the same time. It's a remarkable thing. And it's what I love about you. And that is an incredible opening to your being here on this Feel Good Friday morning. And now I completely understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to pick up on is the thread here, and the connection with the pandemic, Ukraine, and what's the point being made in the movie by Christopher Nolan. Is it to do with how the urges of humanity can be horribly twisted? So you might say, mightn't you, the vaccine researchers start out with ideas that they believe are for the good of humanity, and then other interests come along, for example, and pervert that concern for mankind and turn it into something potentially quite horrific through grabbing of power and rampant profiteering. Is it that sort of vibe that we're talking about here?
Absolutely. I'll give you an example. I was having a conversation with my mechanic. And the gentleman and I, we were having this conversation about this movie. He went and saw this movie too. We were having this conversation, and he was telling me, because as mechanics, they have to take this tetanus shot, because your things get open and like you're working and stuff like that. Yeah. And he was telling me that, Frank, it took them 30 years to come up with the tetanus shot. It took 30 years of research to come up with a tetanus shot. And you're telling me that within no time, humanity, or not humanity, because these people are not humans, I believe, these brokers got together and like 5 or 6 of these big pharma companies suddenly had the recipe and went and concocted this soup that they poisoned us with. I believe poisoned us with, because someone openly say this. and we've spoken about this, someone like myself did not necessarily want the vaccine, but because I have to travel, I have to go and see my mother, I had to take 3 of these. And it's so sad that now that you start reading about this, that it was nothing more than pretty much a common flu, and we have poisoned ourselves with this unknowingly. And the deaths that have happened because of this, someone has to stand up and I'm not saying pay the price, but someone has to stand up and talk about this and say, hey, profiteering is one thing, but you can't become, suddenly the world cannot become a Walmart, you know, like it can't just be about just one thing. And it's so sad to watch it.
Yeah, and this and Oppenheimer has crystallized this for you, is it? Nolan's
absolutely view. The timing is so amazing, because it brings together this atomic bomb thing is just one item, but within it there are so many different things that are going on in our society right now. And because we are so busy, or we've been made busy, like show monkeys, you know, throw all these different things at us to keep us busy, so that the real important thing never happens. No one talks about how this Ukraine war actually started in 2014, and it did not start like a few years ago. And no one talks about the history.
The mainstream narrative is that the conflict began 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I know, like, America's been talking about democracy and saving democracy, and that it's a democratic country being destroyed. If you actually look back at some of the previous reporting before this whole thing started, like about 8 years ago, they were talking about how awful Ukraine was, and how it was one of the biggest places in the world for trafficking, for laundering, and for I think it was CNN and the Washington Post. You know, they posted things about how awful it was, and then a few years later, when the narrative changes, all of a sudden,
180.
Is it what I find interesting? I mean, I really hear what you're saying, Frank, and what I notice is you don't get that many images of it, and then the images that you do get, there are lots of people out there that have gone to Ukraine, gone to different parts of it, and seen that it's just business as usual. In the same way with the French riots that have been going on. In fact, we saw more photos and video footage of these French riots that were apparently taking place. And I've got friends who live in France, and friends who now live here with grown-up children in France. And I've been checking in with them all. And, you know, there's like no disruption. We've got friends driving through France, not getting any disruption. You know, I think a lot of what we get told is, you know, I think we're going to get to, like, there was this stage where we all knew, we all believed in world wrestling. You know, we thought it was a real thing and people were really getting duffed up. And then all of a sudden we found out it was all carefully choreographed and scripted, and it was all made up. And I think at some point we're going to learn that the news is the same.
I'm always very worried when people are talking about serious issues and then the screen goes black or the signal starts breaking up. I always think the worst there. Yeah, this is the comments have gone clear, very quiet.
Yeah,
and
I think it's quite clear that the news isn't working for people.
Well, there will be. Can I just say that there'll be? I imagine there'll be a range of opinion. This is what I'm used to in our community.
Yeah,
and I think we're a great community in the sense that we can hear each other and discuss things. And occasionally there are casualties along the way. There are people that have come and gone and just can't stand. You know, I mean, take for instance this conversation we're having. Some people will think, well, you know, okay, the conspiracy theory button has been pushed. I can't take any more of this Putin apologism or anti-vaxxing and all that sort of stuff. And that's our problem, isn't it? Is how quickly it goes to that. So, you know, on the one hand, hold on a minute, we have smashed the reality of T-Duck.
Wrestling isn't real.
we will be doing Santa later on, T-Duck, if you don't want to,
And
and the
Easter Bunny.
Tooth Fairy. So please, if that's not for you, you
Please
know,
just put your
just
fingers
put
in
your
your ear.
fingers in your ear. But this is the problem, isn't it?
It's difficult to have conversations.
It is. It's
people
Dialogue has gone to cancel culture, woke culture. You just what I sent you about Queen, classic song, Fat Bottom Girls. After I think after their top 3 songs, this is their 4th biggest, and this is unfortunately the problem is
Actually, that's
that
not a very big bottom. I mean, that's actually
that was a big bottom in the 70s.
Yeah, that's actually a very small bottom now,
yes,
isn't it?
it's a lavish bottom. What is the
It's a lovely
problem with that?
bottom.
It's beautiful.
It-
Yeah, I think.
And they kind of go, oh, this is too raunchy and this is too whatever, it's going to get canceled and whatever. And the shameful thing is that the 2 surviving members who are just, they should be ashamed of themselves, Brian May and Roger Taylor, they've gone and they've done this just to make some more money. And they've basically said that, okay, we'll take this classic out and we'll do this to this band's legacy that has it's just so sad. So this is it's not a starting point. This has been going on for a while. This has happened to a lot of people.
Can I rewind you a bit? Because I would love to talk about this Fat Bottom Girls Queen thing as an example of what's going on at the moment. I think it's a really brilliant example. Or, you know, it may seem superficial on the face of it, but it's a very indicative and a fabulous example of what's going on with narrative management, if you like. Now, my fear, of course, is that if we start talking about things in the wrong way, I get cancelled as a YouTuber if I don't say the right things. And what's sad about that is that I'm even thinking about that.
Yeah.
You know, I think we are just talking and saying things and in the spirit of openness and discussion. And that you would think would be whether you like the content or not, you might imagine that the principle of that is a good one in an open, civilized.
Isn't that the idea behind social media? When you say social media, you're basically it's a term that encourages openness, open dialogue. Wasn't this the idea behind the entire thing? Where people can express themselves openly.
But it's become socializing media, hasn't it? So you are socialized in how you should think, potentially by the powers that may or may not influence or control those platforms, or the owners. There's nothing new in that, is there? You know, if you wrote to the Daily Mail in 1914, you would probably have a letter published if it had a certain resonance to it that chimed in directly with what the owner proprietor thought and the editor as a representative of the owner, or they published your letter because it was against what they thought to show what a pillock you were. And there's nothing new in this, but are you saying possibly, Frank, with this moment in history, it's just intensified hugely?
It has not only intensified. The problem is that we're just lying down like sheeple, and there is no fight back. And I understand people's livelihoods are at stake. Like, let's say your situation, right? And there are many folks like that who are out there who've got a microphone in their hand, and they can go and they can talk about certain things, but people are afraid. And it's not the person who is making, it's just the people around them. Because what usually happens is the people around you, there is no strength coming from anyone. So no one comes and supports you. They just go, well, you shouldn't have said that. And no one says, hey, this person has their own ideas. They have their own take. Why can't we just listen to this? Why can't we have a dialogue about this? If you don't like it, change the channel. Very, very simple.
Or change your friends.
Well,
but
I actually think, sorry
Mrs.
to interrupt. I actually think that is happening, but you don't find it until you start looking for it, or until you're ready and open to see other material. It doesn't seem to appear. It just seems to magically appear. You meet the right people who might just give you a clue about what you might want to deep dive into.
Next thing you're on Telegram. The gateway.
But I mean, I also think people are all at different stages, and it's interesting that you use us as an example and other people doing the kinds of things that we do, because very recently it's come to our attention that somebody wants to report Carl for allegedly trying to push vaccines or to push the vaccine agenda because he hasn't done enough to not push it.
Oh, crap. And now I've come on, and that's the first thing I went on about. This is brilliant.
It's so funny because, you know, I don't know how much influence either of us have. Obviously, Carl's got way more influence than I have, but we have not ever once, either of us, ever tried to push anyone into anything other than to use their own mind, to respect each other, and to value freedom.
More than anything, respect one another, respect each other's opinions.
Yes, and to not be a massive prick, you know, and try and harm people, you know. So, you know, all we've ever done is encourage people to make their own decisions and to do their own research. And of course, you know, what people say is, oh, I have done my research. I'm a doctor, or my best friend's a doctor, or this, that, and the other, or I know somebody who's in Ukraine, or
well, we all do that.
And
we all have
our natural bias.
Yeah.
And the only thing I really like, my lingering thought on this is that I absolutely know nothing, and it doesn't matter how much research I do. I won't know anything until I'm actually in the situation of actually experience something physically or intellectually, having a piece of paper in front of me, actually speaking to somebody firsthand, you know, and you know, there's so many things that we've got opinions about that we have no experience of. And we take our whole way of life for granted, based on what we've been told from day one of birth, that this is how it is, like, for every aspect of our lives. And we've learnt not to question a lot of them. And in the last 10 years or so, I've been really questioning a lot. But in the last 3, I feel like my whole life's fallen apart.
Well, you could say it's gone to a nuclear level, couldn't you? And
that's why it's interesting that you're talking about nuclear energy, because I'm noticing in my client work right now, it's like shit or bust time for a lot of people.
And
something is uncomfortable
me, you see,
in
that's
them.
a problem. That's a problem, and that's where I think we've been encouraged to go, is to a finger on the button. This is where relationships are at, isn't it? It's like if you talk about that stuff, I'm going to push the button, and that is, I think, possibly again what the issue, what the theme is here this morning, is how sad that is that we are, whatever it is, we are being so or allowing ourselves to be so emotionally provoked that it comes to, like, you know, I am not talking to you anymore, not because I've made a cool, rational, calm decision that, you know, according to my life values, I like to have a good life and a fun life, and when I'm with you, that doesn't happen. So let's go our separate ways and agree to disagree. I think that's fine. But what I'm uncomfortable with is walking through a minefield of people's emotions where. And my own as well, you know, I own how I might do that to other people as well. It's like, that's it. I'm not talking to you anymore, or anyone like you. Boom, the button is pressed.
I'm taking my ball, and we're not playing anymore.
Yeah.
I'm boo-boo. I'm going home now. I'm going to go home and cry to mommy. This is
we all do
what
it,
we're
Frank,
doing.
don't we? That's why the next bit, the Queen discussion, and not Her Majesty, but the band, His Majesty, is an important one, because it's easy to see it in other people, but I think we all need to own this as well, because you know, you just find yourself slipping into it yourself, don't you? As well, it's like, and the interesting thing about a lot of woke bashers is that they're doing it as well. It's like, you know, these woke people, they're doing my head in. I don't want to live in a world of woke people. It's like, okay, well, is that a calm and considered opinion, or are you just getting activated and triggered?
I find modern cinema, modern media It reflects a lot about how the brains are being washed and what is going on. Because, you know, like when you watch these, there's a reason why these Marvel movies do so well, because, and it tells you a lot about the society. It actually tells you that we have stopped critical thinking, and there is the black and the white. So this is the bad guy and this is the good guy. Meanwhile, we all know that 90 to 95% of our lives are lived in the gray. So it's like when you're talking about good guy, bad guy, like, you know, Putin bad, this guy good, this guy horrible, this guy good. And this is what I'm talking about. They've turned us into showcase monkeys. And we go and we are actually even paying for this material. The problem is not just we're paying. They've done it in a way, they've marketed it in a way, and it's just basically the syringe has gone in the brain where you are now going to go and pay for this garbage as well. You're going to say, yeah, I like this. Superman should always win. And that guy over there, he's the bad guy. It's just, we've just turned this into school ground kids nonsense. And I just, it's very, very sad. And as soon as you start talking about something, as soon as you want to express your ideas, as soon as you want to express some form of critical thinking where, you know what, that might not be the situation. He might not be such a bad guy. Then next thing you know, your screen has turned black and you're no longer relevant and you're no longer out there.
We can say that isn't happening this morning. So thank you, everybody, for that not happening so far this morning.
Yes.
You know,
I really wanted Carl to put that Pamela comment on the screen, because I really like this. If you think mainstream media is lying to you, how can you be so confident that other sources of information are not?
You can't.
You can't.
We're not saying, and we're not saying that.
We're not saying we are confident, but when we sorry,
it might not be aimed at you. It might not be aimed at you.
I'm not talking for Frank or you. I'll just talk for myself. We really can't be confident, and that's the biggest learning is what can you trust, and that's where my comment came from, in terms of I can only really know anything if I experience it directly myself.
Yeah.
That's the best I can do.
I think one of the things
that's the word, instinct.
And so I try and get as broad a range of information. I do check in with mainstream media. It's interesting right now that mainstream media are priming us all for more lockdowns. And it's interesting that you were talking about nuclear stuff at the moment, because I think a lot of the trends coming in and things that later become part of our reality or whatever it is we're experiencing get fed into media first, you know, goes into kids' movies, TikTok, cinema and stuff like that. I mean, you know, a lot of movie houses are changing the traditional looks of women right now because of other agendas or narratives. And it's interesting because there's a lot of nuclear talk right now.
Yeah.
So I think these are big topics. You know, other topics I'm seeing filtered into sort of mainstream narrative is this, like space and aliens and stuff like that.
The next thing to be worried about
and
therefore
it's like
manipulated.
distraction after distraction after distraction. And of course, I'm not saying, you know, if people are actually getting ill and or if people are being bombed, I'm not saying that's not important. However, I do also recognize that I don't know that what I'm seeing on TV is true. And, you know, we saw the BBC years and years ago announce that World Trade 7 building had collapsed and it was still standing. And the BBC reporter was stood with the vista of New York behind her with, you know, like smoke in the air from, you know, the two trade centers going down. But World Trade 7 building that later went down was still standing, but the BBC had reported already ahead of time that it had come down. And they've tried to erase that clip from the internet and it keeps popping up again and again and again. You know, also loads of insider trading happens before these things. A lot of insider trading happened in Maui. So, you know, these things which look like they're surprise disasters, you then find out, well, how do people know to trade, to sell off a lot of stuff or buy a lot of stuff? And when you look at the actual patterns of the trading, you're like, wow, that's
Well, all
That's
I can
actually
say
out
is, all I
of-
can
that's-
say is, it's been
that's-
great being on YouTube for the time that we've been able to do it. Thank you, everybody. You'll be able to find us on Rumble, Twitter, X, or whatever.
Yes, there's always Rumble.
Here on it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much for
I'll
that.
shut up now.
All right.
But yeah,
I
so
hope that
in-
answers your question.
yeah, in
Pam.
answer
It's a
to
great.
that,
It's a great
it's a
point.
good question.
And I think Frank makes a good point. It's about instinct, isn't it? And the other thing that's coming in here is we're all getting a bit older, aren't we? And we've seen the performance of politicians, governments, and corporations working together. I heard a Mussolini quote, a Mussolini deep thought. His definition of fascism, I believe, was when the government and corporations are working together against you. And that's there has been a little bit of that. I think anyone can observe that might have been the case recently. It's about, I guess, a lot of the conversation is about what the intentions are.
No, but he was a dictator and a criminal, so he can never make sense.
Exactly. Well said. Thank you. Thank you for that. Dream Team Friday. It still is. We've gone deep. We've gone deep this morning.
We've gone very, very deep.
Frank has taken us there.
Yeah, we were all
talking
like
about peas.
frivolous and talking about.
We were dancing to
ourselves.
Dembo rhythms 1 minute, making smutty innuendos, and then
Sorry, guys, I warned you.
Let me catch it. Have a rest, both of you. Rest your
Yeah.
brains for just a moment. I eat honey on my peas. I've done it all my life. It makes the peas taste funny, but it keeps them on my nose. Is that a bit of Spike Milligan? Thank you. That was the earlier pea talk.
Trust me, I'll lighten up with the beggar bit.
Oh yeah, of course. Got that. We've got that to come. It's all a matter of perspective. Reminds me of my sons, and these are old, so they might be slightly out of context. These comments reminds me of my son saying, "Oh, Dad, you just tell yourself that because it makes you feel good." Nothing wrong with that, is there? Don't comment yet, Mrs. M.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll never get through.
Okay.
Come back. My advice to everyone watching is to let me read these and then comment on the one that appeals to you most,
Okay.
rather than every single one.
Okay.
Otherwise, we will be here till 1
Okay.
o'clock.
Exactly.
The whole testosterone explanation, is that to do with the nuclear war and male behavior? Possibly. The hairy chest, nothing to do with the nuclear war.
No.
To be or not to be, general of the acting army. I'm not sure what that means. Pea-related life hack. Who doesn't love one of these first thing in the morning? Buy a bag of more expensive peas that has a Ziploc. There you go. That's where we've got to with human civilization. Bird's Eye is the brand. Follow him on Insta for more tips. And then reuse with cheaper peas. Oh yes. Push the boat out for the first lot. And anyone who looks in your freezer, if Lloyd Grossman comes around and does through the keyhole with you, you're going to look like you're proper posh, aren't you? Because you bought expensive peas or
Ziploc
sweet corn
bags.
once and then filled it up with cheap stuff. Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Pam. I've got your pictures of the cakes, which will be a palate cleanse later on because God knows we'll need one. I can't even imagine what someone new tuning in might be thinking. That was a long time ago.
That was right at the start.
I think we maintain that quote. We maintain that quote.
Yes.
I was not looking at a young girl's right. You see, this is how the news can be manipulated. There I was in IKEA looking at shelves, and suddenly I'm looking at a young girl's rack in IKEA. How dare you, Stephen Wells? And you apparently, Frank, make Samuel L. Jackson seem uncool.
Yeah, I would go with that.
Very good. Owen, agreeing with your certainly some of your sentiments earlier on in the show. And T-Duck gutted and may need counselling. James, if you could help T-Duck out as in our buddying system for anyone who's had a shocking realization on the show, please help him via WhatsApp. And let's talk about it. It's happening now, says Owen. What's wrong? And we'll get to this. We'll get to big bottoms in a bit. What's wrong with a good bottom? I even remember when I had one once upon a time. Bit flabby, is it now, Garvo?
I'm sure it's lovely, Gary.
I'm sure it's still
I'll ask
lovely.
Linda.
Yeah. Brian May has a doctorate in astrophysics.
Oh, I keep on hearing this nonsense. All right, go ahead.
No. He's here is a possible reason for why he might have a chip on his shoulder, which is ironic, as my old physics teacher, Mr. Claypack. That is such a good name for a teacher, and I don't know.
It
You
is.
sound like a Rent-A-Ghost, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Mr. Claypack.
Claypole.
Mr. Clayback.
The original bassist in Queen was Pete's old physics teacher. Can you imagine that? How resentful must he have been?
And he was
did he
sacked.
take it out on the kids?
Bet he did.
I used to be the bassist in Queen, you little bastards.
I bet you they would find
Before
ways.
that deacon guy came around.
I bet you they used to put like his song titles into the things that they said.
And then someone humming.
Yeah.
Dum, dum,
Yeah.
ba-dum,
Boom,
dum,
boom, boom,
dum, ba-dum.
ba-dum.
Who's doing that? Shut up! Do you think there is some force working together to force you to take vaccines that will harm you, cancel Queen songs, and demonize Putin? Frank?
There is a force out there, and I'll tell you, to propagate this theory even further, it's gone beyond vaccines, it's gone beyond nuclear, it's gone beyond what we are doing. It's, I think, the entire society. Sometimes, I don't know, the new thing that I'm reading about is that, are we living in a sequence, or are we living in a day-to-day
Matrix.
show?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And this again is one of those push button moments, isn't it? You know, and let's stay together if we can. Let's keep talking about this.
Yes,
because
important.
you and Pam might have a different view of what you imagine that force to be. From Pam's point of view,
Love you,
and
Pam.
it's difficult. It's difficult to get the nuance here, Pam. But I think this is, you know, it can't be right. This is definitely Frank must be talking conspiracy theories, because there can't be some collective force working together that's forced you to take a vaccine. And the Queen agenda that we'll talk about in a moment, and that Putin's the bad guy. And you might characterize that differently, but you're not averse to asserting that there might be some sort of influence in society that is causing these things to happen, and this is part of a collective agenda.
Well, yeah, you have the characters are being played in front of us. We can see what's going on. We can see where this is all leading to, and it's leading to just one place, which is profiteering, which it always was. The problem now is that the methods and the means have gone sinister, more sinister than they ever have been.
Another way, I mean, it's interesting that you should ask the question, Pam, because if you were to take a stance against having vaccinations 2 years ago, and you said, I don't think Putin is he is a bad guy, but it's not quite as it seems. You certainly feel a force if you say things like that in the wrong place, don't you? So in that sense, I think there are collective narratives that, generally speaking, would prefer you to.
And Carl, exactly that. It's all about narratives. If we were to sit down over here and we were going to talk from 2014 and actually educate folks, and they would go and read about the Minsk agreement, they would go and talk about the Azov army, and they would go and read about how everything came together. Some folks, after reading that information, they would actually be like, you know what, this guy's looking after his own people. And this is something. It's something that we don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about certain people as, oh, he potentially might not be such a bad guy. Go and read about it.
And as I recall, in the time of mass vaccination, it wasn't that cool to have a conversation about, oh, give me the facts and I'll make a decision. It was like, go do this, otherwise you're killing Granny, or you're a bad person, or you'll have to sit outside the restaurant. These were things, weren't they? And if not some sinister force and puppeteer behind the scenes, that's force enough. I would have said social force. There was certainly social force.
There was definitely a social force.
Yeah.
I mean, right at the start of it, I was just questioning things because there were lots of things that made no sense. You know, you hear all the news and you hear people panicking and you hear that this is like really a big deal. And then I start listening to the sort of advice that comes from the governments and health agencies and stuff. And it was not making any sense at all on so many different counts. And so on a few like posts on Facebook early on, you know, I said, oh, it's so bizarre, you know, that blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I just shared a few things. Just kind of like, you know, what do you think?
Yeah.
Is this something we should talk about?
There was force,
and
wasn't there?
Man,
shut up.
I get
Put the mask on. Shut up. Do the right thing.
Stop being
questioning.
different.
Yeah.
Stop,
Even if you were to just think about something, you know, like it's like you've always heard this thing where nothing in life is for free, and you as a citizen are getting these vaccines for free. right? So you're like, what good stuff have I done in life to get 3 of these for free? Even though I know the value of each one of these is about 50 to 55, but they do understand that the check is already in the mail. You'll pay for it later. It's so interesting when like there's so many things we did not pick up on. Some of us were forced to do it, and some people, bless them, they were brave, and I called them very, very brave. We went and they said, you know what? I don't care. Ostracize me from the society. I will sit out. I will sit this one out.
Yeah, okay. Please let me catch up, Frank and Mrs. M here, because it's really important to include what people are saying.
I'd love to respond to something that Pam has said.
And you shall.
It's really important because she raises a really good point, and I'd like to.
Okay. Stephen, I think, is working for YouTube now. We need to have a word with you about your thinking.
That time.
Even my legs are beginning to look like a couple of lengths of knotted rope. Is that in a good way? I wonder. Might have to switch to X. I'm not against that. For me, Twitter's improved as an experience.
Twitter's called X now.
It's called X now, yeah. And a very interesting phenomenon. And I'm not taking a 3-button approach. One button is good, one button is bad, and the one in the middle is the nuclear one. I'm not speaking to you anymore. Let's be a bit broader than that. The lucky thing, Gary Austin says, Pete, is I've never had a bottom, and subsequently was well ahead of the trend of having my trousers up. And I bet you top it off beautifully with a bit of baling twine now around your waist there. I love central Portugal farmer, especially when carrying shopping. Does Diane have to walk behind you and pull your trousers up for you? That's a lovely touch, isn't it? If your partner does that for you while you're carrying shopping. You do that for me. But that is just about your love of dad jokes, let alone anything else. That's enough to get us cancelled, I think. But we'll keep going for as long as we possibly can. Big government colluding with big business to stifle speech is called fascism. That's another way of looking at that Mussolini sentiment as shared earlier. Frank, you're absolutely on the mark, mate. You have to say what you think or believe. We're all different, and we can indeed learn from each other. I don't say Pete is wrong, but he may well be mistaken a lot. And here we are, still talking. Just well done, everybody. If you think mainstream media is lying to you, we covered that, didn't we? I may not like what you have to say, but I'll fight for your right to say it.
Yes, absolutely amazing.
Yes, and which part of libertarianism bothers you? The part where you have to make decisions about your own life, or the part where you get to make decisions for mine?
Where you don't get
to. I beg your pardon. Let me do that again. Which part of libertarianism bothers you? The part where you have to make decisions about your own life, or the part where you don't get to make decisions for mine? If you don't like something, then turn off or turn away, but don't you dare take away the option. And I would add to that, maybe stick around. If it's uncomfortable, why don't you look inside and maybe begin to understand why you feel uncomfortable as well? Because I think there's a massive gift in that's being completely overlooked at the moment in society. Unfortunately, there are consequences to misguided beliefs. Such is the human condition, right, Pete? And I'm comfortable with people just affecting themselves, like the deaths of Anti-Tax Meatloaf and Marcus Lamb. But when you see the babies who died from measles and mumps due to an utter charlatan like Andrew Wakefield, as my client's parents did, it is disgusting, especially when it is solely done for profit. That feels a bit nuclear to me.
Yeah.
And I know of many people who will have the opposite view.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, isn't it? When you can field people who've got exactly opposite beliefs with a set of anecdotes. And I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just thinking it's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, for
Mrs. Emma, please hold on. Okay. Can you pick your favorite comment to come back on? It'll be Pam's so far. Such a healthy conversation. Love you guys. Thank you very much. We are looking at the screen for answers when it should come from within, just saying, the instincts there.
Yes,
and forgive me if I am missing any of your comments. We've got a lot to get through. We all have our own take on things according to many things like social, political, religious, and life experience outlooks. What works for you doesn't work for everyone. Information and learning usually comes through a third party. Doesn't it? Information, and I guess it gets turned into wisdom, possibly by yourself, or seen as insight and wisdom through your own adding of instinct. I can't be confident, therefore I need to see all points of view. Thank you for that.
I 100% agree with that.
I listen carefully, says Ocean Dweller, to many opinions and find the truth is somewhere between the extremes.
Yeah,
Funny that.
Very good.
Carl, I'm not crazy enough yet for BitChute. It's just a matter of time, probably, isn't it? Not be too graphic, is this? But the diarrhea is not just. Pete, he's hitting nuclear buttons all over the place. Bon dia. I hope to be getting back into the GMP routine. Good morning. You joined us on an interesting morning, Andy. Brian May. Says Gary Austin. What's this? Just don't mention his hair, apparently. Or the badgers, I think, as well. An uber wealthy organized crime syndicate is attempting to take over the planet. Change my mind. I think that's an answer to one of Pam's earlier comments there, possibly. And they're so slow now. Are we being choked down? Is our bandwidth being choked down because of what we're talking about? You should be able to say what you want. You may be incorrect, but it's your right to have an opinion.
I think we should be able to say what we like, but I also think we should stick around to clear up the mess.
Clear up the mess. That's what we're doing.
That's
We're
really
having a messy
important.
conversation this morning, aren't we? And we are here with mops and buckets ready.
This is something that I want. There were two quotes or comments from Pamela that I wanted to touch on.
Okay.
You're
going to do it now, whether I get to the bottom of the comments or not.
Is that okay? It won't take long to do this one.
Do it, Mrs. M. Do it.
I never hear woke people saying you can't say that. Just people saying they say that. It's the perspective that everyone else are sheep, only I know the truth. It's interesting. Firstly, I agree. I don't think it's helpful to call people woke. I also don't necessarily think it's helpful to call people sheep. I also don't think it's helpful to call people conspiracy theorists. And all of these terms, I think, are fed to us through the media. Because when we go to name calling, like the idea of woke now encapsulates so much that nobody really knows what it is. And it's like a catch-all for something that people don't like, as is, it's a conspiracy theory. It's, what was another one? They're sheep, I think having the conversation is the most important thing, because then you actually find out what people believe in. I have been shut down by many people just by having a conversation. By some standards, they might be woke. I've also been shut down by conspiracy theorists. And I think, when we use the labels, which the media is doing and is kind of encouraging us to, I think that is like nuking the whole situation and inflaming it.
Well,
so
that
I agree.
brings us full circle again, doesn't it? I think nuking problem.
I think it's then not about the conversation, but about the name calling. The moment the names are called, people are then defending.
It gets emotional, doesn't it? You can't think straight. You cannot.
Yeah, but Mrs. M, if the name is being called, it's up to you if you're taking ownership for it, and then you're emotionally triggered by it. So what usually happens is, like, let's say, for example, someone is being called a sheep. So you as the sheep look at it and you go,
I don't anymore, but
how dare you call me sheep?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when you're talking about folks in a certain way, not derogatory, I think the reason why it's, and contrary to what you're saying, I believe that it's not name calling. What it is it encapsulates so much, and it basically takes in a small amount of time, it takes a lot of messages and it puts them, depends on how you take it, because everyone has their way of digesting the information. Some people will be like, hey, why is he calling me sheep? I'm not sheep just because I take orders well. I am not an obedient taxpayer. Why is he calling me that? Well, you are. That's what we do. In our school system, we don't raise people as human beings who question things. We are just raising obedient taxpayers. Now there you go, more name calling.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Well, let's see.
I mean,
why don't we
this is
why don't
gonna-
we use this opportunity? We've got 10 minutes left
Yeah.
of the show. We could use this opportunity to use Queen's decision, allegedly.
Yeah.
Actually, before we go there, I want to say that I'm looking forward to doing the Woke Diaries on your new show, Mrs. M.
Yes.
I have been woker than most people. There was a time in my life when
We
I
were-
was
we were
I have
really
been a
woke
feminist.
many years
I've been a
ago.
feminist vegan, and I used to
And
read.
that was like 30 years ago,
I
wasn't
used
it?
to. No, it's
35
last week. I
35 years
used
ago.
to read Andrea Dworkin, and for a time in my life, I thought that sexual intercourse was violence, all of it, along the lines of Andrea
Wow.
Dworkin, and I really believed it at the time, and I still understand why I believed that, and I think we should also within our conversations have the good grace to respect the people. We're all on a process, aren't
Yeah.
we? And we've all got healing to go through. And many of our views and the things we get triggered and emotional about are nothing to do with Putin, vaccines,
Yeah.
or
No.
Queen. They are to do with how they are projections and resonances of our own personal
Helplessness.
helplessness.
Yeah.
Yes, fear, anxiety, and all those things, and we project onto these things, don't we? So I dearly hope that we hold on to this thread and ability to converse about it. Hold on a minute. My trainer just wants to have a quick word with me. Henry, good morning to you. I love it when he tells me things like this. I can see that you've lost weight in your face.
There you go.
Filter, Henry. It's a filter. No, it's not. It's the truth. So 10 minutes to go or 8 minutes to go now. Cheers, Henry. Good to see you this morning. Queen, what's going on with Queen allegedly, and where's this news source? Can we frank check it first? What's going on with this fat bottom girls thing? And let's see
Well,
if
they've removed it. Universal Music basically didn't ask them, pretty much told them that Queen's Greatest Hits was actually one of the biggest albums, and they're asking them to take Fat Bottom Girls out because the quote unquote woke crowd has a problem with fat bottom girls. And
now, is that true, Frank? I got to ask you.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Is this a story that woke bashing papers have got hold of and turned it into this as an opportunity?
Let's just say this: it's not politically correct. It's not in this day and age. It's not politically correct to. If you read the lyrics of this one, you know exactly why this song is being removed from the catalog. Is because it's not politically correct. So obviously, when this happens, you want to sell, you want to push the product, and if your product is not going to move because of one song out of 15 other great songs, then you're going to take that one song out because the crowd is saying
all the other ones about taking drugs, devil worship, and all other kinds of debauchery are fine. It's just this one.
Exactly, and we'll probably get to that in the next 3 or 4 years, and probably that one will come out of the catalog as well.
I want to ask you, Frank. Is it Universal Music that have called for this?
Exactly.
Right, now, they didn't say it's not politically correct, so we're withdrawing it. What did they say about it, and why? You see, this is like Porsche the other day. Porsche airbrushed out Christ from the Cristo Rey monument, and then later on, everyone splurged about why they did it, why they shouldn't have done it. No one ever found out, I don't think, from them why they did it. I never heard
exactly. It's also about it's also about instinct, and it's also about background on this band. Because remember when the Freddie Mercury movie came out a few years back, where everybody was doing this and everybody was like, give this guy an Oscar and whatever for first of all for not a very good performance. Personal opinion again, Sacha Baron Cohen would have done a much better job, and this is what he wanted to do. He wanted to do Freddie's life because Freddie had a very hedonistic kind of out there kind of life, and the kind of movie that they ended up making. The entire reason for making that movie was a lot of moviegoers go and watch this flick, and it goes to the Oscars and whatever. And once again, they sold out. This is exactly why the track record of this band since Freddie has died has been shameful. You think that if he wouldn't have done this,
You think
Freddie
he
would never have done this. This would never have happened. It's because the man who wrote Bohemian Rhapsody, which at that time was quite long. It was not that the band members were with him in the beginning. He just stood and he said, you know what? I am not going to release 3 minutes of this song. I'm going to do the full 5.5 minutes or whatever it is. The man, he had his convictions and he was very, very strong about it. And since the time he has unfortunately passed, these guys have tried to polish the entire reputation of the band. And you can't polish something that books have been written about this.
But money and power involved again, which is the recurring
Absolutely.
theme through here, right? So very good, Stephen. I love your comment, Stephen. It's 2032, and welcome to the Queen Greatest Hit album. Now,
Beautiful.
They're going to keep doing it every 2 years, aren't they?
Let's do this, folks. Let's look at the Greatest Hits album, which was 1981, and let's see if we can cancel the whole album. All right, you're a fan, Frank, and I know this goes against your instincts and your emotional attachment to Freddie Mercury. But if I go through these, Another One Bites the Dust.
Yes.
Can we keep that one or not, or is that just too? Is that awful for people who?
If that one goes, Loverboy goes. There's I dare to say at some point there will be some interpretation of Bohemian Rhapsody. That one will go.
No, one at a time. So it's Another One Bites the Dust. That's going to be awkward for anyone who's grieving at the moment, isn't it? Or
Precisely.
Bohemian Rhapsody, as you were about to say, I think Mama just killed a man. We can't have that, can we?
Exactly. Violence.
Murder.
Yeah.
Crazy little thing called love. That's not very fair to people with mental health issues, is it? Crazy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Killer Queen, anti-monarchy.
Anti-monarchy.
Fat Bottom Girls has already been cancelled on our
It's already been cancelled.
Bicycle Race could be quite good, couldn't it? It fits in with you, Les, and when we go to just everyone having a bicycle and being happy about it, or borrowing.
Well, the environmentalists can go and they would be like, why not electric bikes? You know, like why?
Okay,
I also
so that's
think
gone.
Who Wants to Live Forever is going to put people under pressure, so to speak.
There you go.
Because
Double whammy. There you go.
I
This is
know.
nonsense.
It's not on the Greatest Hits album.
No, but I am
one.
using my phone as well.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, Who Wants to Live Forever? I mean, a lot of children, sort of young people, feel like their future has been stolen by
So we get rid of that as well.
by Gen X.
Too much love will kill you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can't have that.
Look, don't stop me now because
Look, stop just throwing in random Queen songs. It was trying to stick to the Greatest Hit. Flash,
Yes.
you can't have Flash, can you?
You can't have
Yes.
Flash.
the show must go on. So
The show
Hammer to
must go
Fall.
on is not on the Greatest Hits album. Stop it. Somebody to Love. That seems fairly inoffensive. Are there lyrics in there we can take an offense to?
Absolutely.
probably,
Okay.
I think we should keep playing the game.
Play the Game. That's a horrible reference to prostitution.
Is it?
Horrible.
Okay.
I imagine, yeah. You're
The
my best
gamblers,
friend.
right?
That's
Gambling.
okay, isn't it? You're my
Okay,
best
We Are
friend.
the Champions. Have you already vetoed that one? Because you know, like, there's a lot of sort of
It's not very
upset
cooperative.
there's a lot of upset in competitive sport right now
Absolutely.
as to
Everyone needs to have a medal.
yeah.
I'd like this cover version. Another one, Rads the Bus. That's the. Okay. So we're changing them into socially acceptable Queen songs.
This is actually
Exactly.
quite a good
This is
exercise.
really good, isn't
And
it?
then Adam
Okay.
Lambert is going to come out and sing all of them.
Yes, and this one is sponsored by ULEZ in London. Another one, Rads the Bus. Come on, put your hands together. Another one, Rads the Bus. Hey. Okay. Pete is asking. Yes, of course, Felicity Kendall was our crush.
Yeah.
Not Penelope Keith. Come on. Joao, so good to see you. Politically correct is the new dictatorship of minorities over the general population. A Portuguese
Yes.
perspective. I refuse to be
Yes.
afraid to express ideas or natural preferences just to please somebody's ideology or arrogance of pretending to be morally better than me. Mic drop moment for the Joao out there. Don't ask me tough questions in the morning. Well, you did pretty good. Oh, I see. That's about Penelope Keith or Felicity Kendall. Is there any question to be answered there?
It's obviously Flick, isn't it?
It's got to be Flick, and it takes us back to Bottoms, doesn't it? She was voted consistently as having one of the best bottoms on TV for years and years, as I recall, before I was even interested in such things, as I remember. Frank, amazing. It's 10 o'clock.
Oh, I've got another one.
Go on.
We will watch you.
We will watch you.
Because of all the videos.
For your own
going
good.
up.
For your own good, we will watch
good.
you. Yes, a Bohemian Rhapsody we can't have, can we? Unless we...
Well, they don't want people being boho, do they? Because then they might start thinking for themselves.
It'll have to be a conformist
well,
Rhapsody.
Also, I mean, how can they get that many avocado toasts in one of these ULEZ?
Oh, you're being
communities.
proper woke bashing now, aren't you? You've taken it to stereotypes.
No.
You've taken it down to the stereotypes. I think Bohemian Rhapsody could be a sort of conformist Rhapsody. Nothing bohemian, people conforming, and it could be rewritten to encourage you to create social credit, and then you won't have to kill anyone.
Yeah, you don't have to kill anyone.
Yeah. How about that?
Ooh.
Yeah, I gave him a like. I gave him an unlike on Facebook instead of putting a gun to his head, which will eventually be the same thing, won't it? Frank, it's been amazing this morning. You've taken us on a roller coaster ride. Incredible. You incredible.
We were all smut before you came.
It was all smutty, and then you raised the bar and changed the game on the show this morning. Thank you very much indeed, Frank. Maybe a last. Why don't you round up for us this morning on this Feel Good Friday? And ironically, given that we've been discussing quite difficult subjects, I do feel good. I do feel like we've had a robust and healthy discussion. I hope everyone else feels the same way as well about this. And as Frank, and I think I've said this morning, if something has really upset you, there's a gift in that as well, isn't there? You can come out of your corner fighting. You can push their wrong button. You can push the nuclear button, cancel people. But so often it's something to do with our own unhealed aspects, isn't it? Why we're getting so upset about something that we actually don't even know anything about, really, in truth. So over to you, Frank, for a final word on this matter, if you will.
My feel good story about European beggars. And this has happened to me. This has happened to me in Milan, and this happens over here in Portugal very, very often. In North America, somehow, like, the reputation of like the street beggars is like, haven't shaved for many days, don't smell very good. There is some kind of whatever, like, one eye is pointing east, one eye is pointing west. So you look at the guy, looks destitute. It looks like the person needs help. Meanwhile, in Europe, what I found, and especially there are a few beggars over here that I find, is this happened to me the other day. This actually happened in, I think, Spain or somewhere else before. This guy comes by in a bicycle and stops over there. He's wearing designer glasses. He's got like a little bit of a pot belly, nicely shaved, smells nice and whatever. He gets off and he goes, excuse me. And like, he's asking me for money. And what I kind of find is the art of begging it should be such an art that you should not be confused. It should be in a way that you immediately go, listen, man, I think you're doing worse than me in life. I got to hand you this cash. I'm looking at this guy, takes his designer glasses off. He starts talking to me. And he's got a better shave than myself. So, he's crisp shave or whatever. He's asking me for money. I was so confused. And then I was carrying a bag, on me, and like as I'm going, and you know what? He was not looking for money. So he goes to me, by any chance, are you? As he was speaking as Portuguese, he goes, by any chance, are you carrying cerveja with you? And I go, no, unfortunately, I'm not carrying cerveja. I'm carrying vino. And then he goes, that'll do. And he looked, I just like, you have no shame. He goes to me, that'll do. And I go, no, I really like this wine at Continent. I really wish to drink this one. He goes, well, at least, and this is the funniest thing. He goes, vinho de Alentejo or vinho de Douro? And I said, eu gosto vinho de Alentejo. And he looks at me with disgust. He goes, no. So I said, you don't even want my wine now? And he goes, yeah, no. He puts his designer glasses back and just goes away. And I'm just like, this is begging with a style. It's like the man at first, I think he started with money, but then he was like, all right, I'm gonna get some booze off of him. And
he was a sage. He was a sage dressed up as not really dressed up like a beggar.
It was such a beautiful experience. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to offer him food, because he looked like, with the pot belly like that, he looked like he was well fed. And he got back on his bike and he just started riding his bike. He went away. And as he went away, I was so confused. The entire interaction, I was so confused by it. Yet I was so happy to see, it's evolved. The art has evolved. It doesn't need to be depressing.
It's a fascinating subject, isn't it? Stuart Wilde, some people might know the writer Stuart Wilde. Whenever somebody put a cap in front of him, he would take money out of it and say, "Oh, thanks very much." And that kind of twists things, doesn't it? And I remember, when I think this might have been in my really woke phase, I must buy a sandwich for this guy who's begging outside a shop. So whilst I was getting myself a sandwich, I thought, I'll do the good thing here. I'll virtue signal by buying this guy a sandwich as well. I took a sandwich to him and he had a look at it. He said, "Oh, I don't like cheese."
Yeah.
I thought, and my virtue signaling wokery was punctured immediately by indignation. I thought, I've judged you as being much worse off than me. How could you turn down a dairy product, when I've gone to all this trouble for you? It was fantastic. And again, Mercadona, similar sort of situation. I've got a guy asking me for some money the other day. And I always give money. Well, I don't always, but I generally give money to people, to beggars. And I keep some change in the car for that purpose, because you get stopped at traffic lights as well. And I gave him some change, and he said, "Well, what about the rest of it on my hand?" And I thought, "Well, okay, fair play to you. Yeah, have the rest of it." And I looked at it, might have been the same guy. He might have cycled from the Algarve up to here. He had a bike worth thousands by the look of it. It's a carbon fiber bike.
He had an expensive bike too. An expensive bike. He's riding an expensive bike around.
They're the same. They're part of the same team, possibly. Frank.
That's what I'm saying. It's just, these are very, very happy guys. These are like, he's not looking for anything else. He's just like, "Listen, man, what do you have? And if you're not fiddling around with change, okay, so you got booze," and you're just like, "Yeah, but I've got my wine." And the guy says to me, I don't drink Alentejo wine. I only drink Dodo wine." I'm like, this is classic.
Good for him. And here are some lovely cakes to finish the show with. Thank you, Pam. There is a pistachio pavlova from the world famous.
Unfortunately, that's not for you, Carl.
It's not for me right now. But I can have a little taste of that, can't I? Or it's a slippery slope, isn't it? And a final few comments before we go off onto our feel-good weekends. Hopefully we've lifted your spirits a little. We've got a great show today from T-Duck. We have a great seeing you, Frank, from Owen. Have an amazing weekend, everyone. Great show. For some reason, Barbara Good was very sexy when she got angry in The Good Life. What was the husband's name?
Can't remember.
Oh, yes, she used to tell him off, did she? And a lot of fellas used to look forward to that moment. Our language teacher is bringing some wine that is homemade and globally exclusive to 8 vineyards in Portugal next week. I am so looking forward to it. The sort of wine a beggar might approve of there. And yes, don't forget the dad jokes. We've got the dad jokes too. Afraid we have to thank Salazar for that kind of exclusivity. Yes, isn't it interesting? Life is nuanced and rich, isn't it? It's not buttons of good, bad, and the nuclear option. And the husband was Tom. Tom, how could you? Yes, the angry face of Felicity Kendall. And you know she's going to turn around, walk off, and you're going to see her bottom. Excellent. Right, okay, let's have a look at those dad jokes. So we did this before, but it's worth doing again because all dad jokes are, I opened a bag of frozen peas and a few fell out. Are they escapees? Mrs. M's going to have a bag of frozen peas on each knee, I think, later on today.
Yeah, definitely.
90% of marriages just yelling, "What?" from another room. Or it's a very good percentage,
tripping over a cat,
or tripping over cats and shouting
out,
"Micah!" And the final dodge. Oh no, there's more. You know you're clumsy when you drop a stick playing air drums.
Yikes.
Very good. And lies we tell our kids. We got more of these. That's not fish. It's Argentinian chicken. We must try that here. The rumble strips on the highway are for blind drivers. That's very politically incorrect, isn't it? And if you eat enough vegetables, your body will make them taste like candy. We must try that later on today,
That's
Mrs.
never going to work.
They'll see right through that. Kids are much smarter these days, aren't they, than we were?
Yeah.
Very good. Big round of applause for you, Frank. Big round of applause for everybody. Well done. We played nicely. Have a great weekend. See you on Monday. Bon fin de semana. Ciao, ciao.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show rings a bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
My goodness, I forgot to do it again. Okay, it's the Portugal quiz question for today, the 25th of August 2023. My dad would have been 90 if he'd survived, born 90 years ago today. Let's bring it onto the screen then. And this, I meant to do this while Frank was here with us. This is the Portugal quiz question of today, 25th of August 2023. What is the Portuguese national animal? And we've got a nice picture to illustrate this. This is Frank here with the black pig. Is that the Portuguese national animal? Is it the red deer? Is it the Iberian lynx, or is it the Iberian wolf, or is it the rooster? You might want to think twice about that. As a little bit of a clue for you. Thank you for listening. Go to www.learnaboutportugal.com to make your guess and to learn loads about Portugal. Thank you very much. Bye for now.